Imagine waking up one day and realizing you've spent years believing you're too old to pursue your dreams. That's exactly what happened to Sarah, one of our listeners. Today, we're going to explore how she and you can break free from these limiting beliefs. You're listening to Change is Big and Small with Damian President. Change is Big and Small will help you take action in your life with intention and purpose. In each episode, I invite you to take action to live the life that you want. In this episode, I want to talk about something many of us face in midlife: limiting beliefs. These are the stories we tell ourselves, often unconsciously, that hold us back from creating or maybe even imagining the life that we want. Whether it's the belief that we're too old, that physical pain or health issues will stop us, or that it's too late to find joy in a new career or make money doing what we love, these beliefs can weigh us down and prevent us from discovering what's possible in midlife. But here's the thing: these beliefs are not facts. They're just thoughts. And you can change your thoughts. So in this episode, we're going to explore how to shift your beliefs and how to use the power of a personal mission statement to reclaim your joy and purpose. We'll also be talking about something called the upper limit problem, a concept from a book by Gay Hendricks, The Big Leap. It's the idea that we all have an internal limit on how much success, love, and happiness we believe we deserve. We'll explore how that can sneak up on us in midlife and stop us from living with true enjoyment and fulfillment. Before we dive in, I want you to take a moment right now to pause this episode and write down one limiting belief you've been holding onto. We'll come back to this later. Let's start by defining what we mean by limiting beliefs. A limiting belief is any thought or story we tell ourselves that restricts what we think is possible. These beliefs often come from past experiences, our upbringing, or society's expectations. They get reinforced over time, and they shape how we see ourselves and the world. For women in midlife, these beliefs can show up in many forms, especially when it comes to health or career. Some of the most common ones that I hear from listeners are: I'm too old to change careers. Pain is inevitable as I age, and it stops me from being able to enjoy life. It's impossible to make money doing what I love. Do any of these sound familiar to you? Or maybe you have a slightly different version of these beliefs. All of these are thoughts, opinions, not facts. For example, there are people at every age who change careers. When we believe these stories, these limiting beliefs, they restrict our dreams, they shape our choices, and they limit our actions. We don't apply for the job we want, we don't take care of our health, or we put off the passion project we've always dreamed of. But these beliefs are not truths. They are opinions or conclusions we've drawn from our experiences. Once you realize that they're not facts, it becomes easier to interrogate them and to change them. Let's explore how we can start overcoming these limiting beliefs. One of the most important things to remember is that your beliefs are just thoughts. I know I keep saying that, but it's important. Because if something is a thought, it means that we can question it. And you can even create deliberate new thoughts. It starts with awareness. So this is the process to follow. First, write out a thought download where you identify a scenario tied to your limiting belief. Write down the scenario and all the details about it, as if you're telling a complete story or situation to someone. Next, divide everything in the story as opinion or fact. Now, I'm using the word story here, but that doesn't mean that I believe it's not true. It could be true, but it's still a story because it's how you perceive it, and somebody else might write it in a different way. So in this step, you're dividing everything as opinion or fact. This gets tricky because we think of many of our opinions as fact. Remember that a fact is something that can stand up as evidence in a court of law. That means it can actually be recorded. And then the third step is to identify the thoughts that are holding you back. List them by strength and notice, what is the belief that's holding me back? Where did it come from? How is it serving me? What evidence do I have that this belief is true? What evidence do I have that this belief may not be true? For example, I had a client who believed that her chronic pain meant she couldn't exercise anymore or live an active life. She told herself, I'm too old and my body won't let me do the things that I love. But when we dug deeper, she realized that this belief wasn't even true. But that belief had led to many missed opportunities. We worked on adding a new belief. I can still find joyful movements that work for my body. For example, she could still work in her garden, but it looked different than before. Shorter duration, more breaks. She was also able to go walking and to do gentle yoga. While it's true that she couldn't do all the things that she did before, there were many opportunities for activity that she was missing because of her limiting belief. She kept practicing the new thought and noticed how it was much more motivating and inspiring for the life that she really wanted. Limiting beliefs are not bad thoughts. I don't like to assign morality to thoughts. However, there are thoughts that serve us and thoughts that don't serve us. And in general, limiting beliefs are thoughts that don't serve us. Now, for each of the beliefs you identified earlier, is there another belief that does serve you? The goal is to come up with something that you really believe. It doesn't have to be utopian, but rather something that supports you in building the life you want. For example, it could be, my body is changing as I get older. Notice that thought isn't so radical and maybe it's not even positive, but it is an improvement over, I'm too old and my body is breaking down. One of them is much more neutral, much more curious than the other. Maybe by saying my body is changing as I get older, you might want to see what your body is capable of and not just focus on ways that it's worse than before. Another listener shared the belief that she couldn't make money doing what she loved. And this is something I hear very often. Society has conditioned us to believe that work and joy cannot coexist. But the truth is, many people have built fulfilling, financially stable lives around their passions. It's not true of all of us, but the point is that it's not impossible. And we too often tell ourselves that something is impossible, shutting down the conversation before we even engage with it. The key is to recognize that your beliefs shape your reality. If you believe it's not possible, you won't take the steps necessary to make it happen. That may seem a bit obvious. But if you challenge that belief, you open up yourself to new possibilities. Does this make sense to you? About exploring new beliefs, about how some beliefs serve you and others do not? This is a key part of my coaching methodology. And if you're interested in working with me, you can go to changesbigandsmall.com/coaching. Now, I want to introduce you to a concept called the upper limit problem from the book The Big Leap by Gay Hendricks. The upper limit problem refers to the self-imposed ceiling we create when it comes to how much success, happiness, and love we believe we deserve. When we hit this upper limit, we often sabotage ourselves, sometimes without even realizing it. For example, you might be working towards a big goal, maybe launching a new business or making a major life change. But as soon as you start getting momentum, you suddenly feel stuck or you start doubting yourself. You might even find yourself distracted by little problems or worse, create new obstacles. This is very, very familiar to me as I've been working on building a coaching business. I also think of it as being the resistance, which is one of the things that Stephen Pressfield talks about in The War of Art. The upper limit problem happens because we all have an internal thermostat. It's set to how much happiness or success we think we're worthy of. When we exceed that limit, our subconscious mind kicks in to bring us back to a more comfortable level of success. This works really well with the balance beam analogy that I introduced in the last episode. If we don't think that we can reach the next higher beam, then we won't even try. And that's even if we've been practicing and even if we're capable, we might think that it's out of our reach, that we're not comfortable at that next level. The good news is that once you recognize this pattern, you can start to push yourself beyond it. So as you work on your limiting beliefs, keep the upper limit problem in mind. Ask yourself, is there a part of me that's afraid of success, afraid of more joy? This fear can often mask itself as a limiting belief, like, I can't make more money doing what I love, when in fact it's just your upper limit kicking in, trying to keep you safe but small. Let's take a moment for a brief visualization exercise. Close your eyes if you're in a safe place to do so. And now imagine yourself living without the limiting beliefs you wrote down earlier. What does your life look like? How do you feel? What are you doing differently? Hold on to this image and the feeling that it evokes. This is the life that's possible when you break free from your limiting beliefs. Now let's turn to a listener question. Damian, I've always wanted to turn my hobby of photography into a business, but I keep hearing this voice in my head saying, you can't make a living from something like that. How do I get past this feeling? That's a really good question. And the first thing I want to point out is that this is a fact. You can't make a living from something like that. That's a thought, not a feeling. When was the last time you had this thought, and how did you feel once you noticed it? What did you do then? Do you know how you developed this belief? Did someone tell it to you, or is it based on your past failures? Look for counterexamples. There are thousands of people making a living as photographers. What is the difference between you and them? In what ways are you similar? What if you believed that you could make money through your photography? What would you do differently than what you're doing right now? Try on the belief. Just try it on as if you're trying clothes. You don't have to keep it forever. But how do you feel if you say, I can learn to make a living through my photography, just like many others have? If that belief doesn't work for you, it doesn't fit right, it doesn't fit well, try on a different one. This simple shift can open up new possibilities and motivate you to take steps towards your goals. The thing that I want you to remember is that in every circumstance, we have thoughts. These thoughts come very quickly and we may not even be aware of them, but they shape our feelings. And those feelings shape our actions and they create our results. And there are thoughts that serve us and thoughts that don't. We can incorporate more thoughts that serve us in our daily activities intentionally. However, changing deeply ingrained beliefs takes time and consistent effort. Now that we've explored limiting beliefs, I want to introduce a powerful tool to help guide your next steps: a personal mission statement. A personal mission statement is a clear and concise expression of what matters most to you. It serves as your compass, helping you make decisions and take actions that align with your values and your passions. Creating a mission statement can be empowering because it shifts your focus from what's holding you back to what's possible. Here's a simple framework to help you get started. First, reflect on your values. What are the things that truly matter to you? Is it creativity, connection, growth, contribution, some combination of those? Second, think about your strengths and your passions. What do you love doing and what are you really naturally good at? And then third, consider the impact you want to make. Who do you want to help and how do you want to show up in the world? As an example of a mission statement, I am committed to living a joyful life by helping women in midlife rediscover their passions and cultivate self-compassion, resilience, and community. One version of my mission statement is, I am committed to living life in a way that's intentional and deliberative so that I do work that fulfills me and has a positive impact on the world. It may seem overwhelming to create a personal mission statement. So my suggestion to you is to start small. Begin by listing your core values and what brings you joy. You can go back and listen to episode 142 on values if you're not sure where to start. Then look for patterns and connect them. Your mission statement doesn't have to be perfect right away. In fact, that's the whole work that we do. We don't go for perfection, we go for progress. So create version 1 and evolve it over time as you try things out and as you gain clarity. If you're curious about diving deeper into overcoming limiting beliefs and creating a personal mission, here are a few books that I highly recommend. The Big Leap by Gay Hendricks is all about overcoming your internal barriers to success and living in your zone of genius. Mindset by Carol Dweck is a foundational book on the power of adopting a growth mindset to overcome limitations and embrace new challenges. You Are a Badass by Jen Sincero is a fun, motivational guide to breaking through self-doubt and living boldly. And finally, Worthy: How to Believe You Are Enough and Transform Your Life by Jamie Kern-Lima is an inspiring book that delves into self-worth, guiding you to believe that you are enough regardless of what you've been through and to embrace your full potential. My invitation to you this week is to sit down and journal about your top 3 limiting beliefs. For each belief, find a piece of evidence that contradicts it. Then create a new belief that counters the limiting belief. How many times a day can you remind yourself of these new beliefs? Find ways to remind yourself of them multiple times a day. Maybe you can add some notes at home and at work, or you can use a habits app. That's what I do. The old belief will still arise. The goal isn't to fight with it or to pretend it no longer exists. Rather, each time that old belief arises, if you can notice, then you can also remind yourself of the new belief. Additionally, start drafting your personal mission statement. Remember, this is a living document. It can change and it can grow with you over time. I'd love to hear about your journey. What limiting beliefs have you identified and how are you shifting them? Reach out to me, contact@changesbigandsmall.com or share in the Facebook group. Thank you for joining me today on Changes Big and Small. If you've enjoyed listening to this episode, please help me share it with more people by leaving a review. You can find an easy link for reviews in the show notes. Note that I am changing the frequency of the podcast to be every 2 weeks, and so there will be no episode next week. However, when we return, we'll be talking about the power of gratitude and positive self-talk, how these simple practices can transform your inner dialogue and bring more joy into your life. Until then, keep believing in yourself and remember, change begins with one small step. Have a great week.